Hey, how's it going? I'm Mike Little. I'm here to talk to you guys about my medical evaluation board today. We've been sharing this information about my injustice from the Navy for the last few days, and we're trying to go over it piece by piece to help you understand what's happening and to bring awareness of the situation so that more people can better understand just basically how this all works. So I appreciate everyone who's been tuning in and listening, and I appreciate all the feedback and the support. Um, I It just means a lot that I've got a lot of support out there. So today we're going to talk about the launch of the web page that I built, and we're going to talk a little bit about, and we're going to talk about the medical evaluation board is our next process. So yesterday we talked about the line of duty and how I at one point realized that I wanted to stay in the Navy so bad that I went out of my way to ensure that happened, and including hiding my disabilities and lying to myself about what I could and couldn't do. And then ultimately, after being evaluated and getting to know the doctors and the professionals at Walter Reed, realized that being in the Navy wasn't good for me anymore. I was I just couldn't safely perform my duties, and I had enough injuries to my mental state that I just couldn't stay in anymore. So we so basically I changed my mind, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it took a lot for me to accept the fact that my Navy career was done and over, and so I made that decision, and that's where we're at. So I launched the web page, and we started off, and we just kind of like tell the story, bring it to the people, and then once you get through there, we talk about what can happen, and we talk about the deadline of how long I have to file an appeal with the federal courts, and then we're going to start some donations to legal fund. I got to come up with 20 grand to hire a lawyer that's professional in this, so I can get there, and I appreciate everyone who supports me. And if you can't donate anything, I understand completely, and we'll find a way to do this. So then we get into the events of significance, and so we talk about the different steps this takes. And so yesterday we started off by talking about the line of duty, and then today we're going to talk about this medical evaluation board, and then we'll move on from there. And then if you want to read the entire timeline, you basically click this link, and I have poured everything I've got into this timeline. And this starts from my date of service, and there's supporting documents that are in this. A little bit of my explanations, a little bit of their explanations for why these things happened, and just makes to me it makes no sense. And so it ends on October 11th, and we'll update it as we get down to that. And then once you get down to the bottom, there's a couple photos of me throughout my career, and then it takes you right into my blog, where you can find this information. And if anything, I appreciate the fact that if you could share this for me. And so everything that we do, I come over here and I upload it into my blog, and I would love to just have your help. I want to talk about this a little bit. So I published an article in LinkedIn earlier, and kind of disappointed. A lot of senior military leaders over there, I know they've seen my article, and not a lot of support on it. So, but I'm not surprised. So let's dive into it. I don't want to make these real long. So today we're going to talk about the medical evaluation board and how that all happens. And so the medical evaluation board is basically an integrative review of me by medical professionals in the field of which I am seeking relief for, right? So my case is based solely on post-traumatic stress disorder, severe migraines, and irritable bowel syndrome. And so whenever they evaluate me, there is a mental health professional that does the evaluation, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a counselor. They do the evaluation on me for PTSD, and then there's a neurologist that does the migraines, and then I don't know the name of the doctor that does the IBS thing, and it's so insignificant I don't really care. But and then there's an audiologist that does everybody's got tinnitus, and there's in the military. It says right here at the top, the consolidated NARSM incorporates specialty consults and VA CNP examination findings, basically that address the specialty for the item, and is an administrative document, not to be used as a source document for medical decisions. So they state that up front, but they're basically the ones that are making these decisions, right? So my question to the board is, how can you send me to medical professionals that are reviewing me and taking actions to diagnose me outside of my own provider? So these aren't my providers that I see on a regular basis. These are actual outside care providers. So they're people that the military has paid to come in and evaluate us. And so I think it's kind of crappy that they put in the front that these are not to be made for medical decisions, yet it is a very, very important step in this whole process. And without it, you can't get to the next step. So, their diagnosis comes back with two decisions. Diagnosis one is post-traumatic stress disorder does not meet retention standards in accordance with the SECNAV instruction. This condition did not exist prior to entrance into military service. An unspecified depressive disorder does not meet retention standards in accordance with SECNAV instruction, and this condition did not exist prior to entrance into military service. And if you remember yesterday, we talked about the line of duty, and the line of duty stated that my line of duty was approved because of combat operations, right? So combat operations. So we have the LOD, which came back and determined that I had I did have the PTSD and stuff for combat-related injuries, and then they come on with the LOD and they basically justify it. So the Navy's LOD letter comes back, and they say that I was approved for this line of duty dating back from 12 November 2010 to 22 October, and blah blah blah. Where does it go into? And basically, it just talks about what I'm entitled to, and where they're sending me beyond that. And so they reviewed my documents, and they determined that it's because of my deployments, and so that's why they've authorized my line of duty. So we scroll down, and they go into it. They talk about my deployments, and everybody can read this. I've got this available on my website. Everybody can read it. So it talks about my deployments. It talks about the things that I went through, what I seen, what I saw, what I done. A lot of it has to do with detaining operations was not a fun job. It was not an easy job. It was something that was very mentally taxing. A lot of moral injury that was involved in it. I saw a lot of things. So they talk about the medications that I was on while I was in theater. So I was actually in Iraq and Afghanistan having some issues, and so they prescribed me some medications, and I went through that. They also talk about my treatments whenever I got back from the VA, and multiple suicide attempts and thoughts, and dealing with depression, severe depression. So here's where they make their prognosis, and they say his prognosis is guarded. His psychiatric conditions may stabilize and improve with ongoing psychotherapy and the use of psychotropic medications. Although his non-medical assessment recommended retaining him in the Navy Reserve because of his chronic recurrent nature of his symptoms, it is unlikely that the service member will improve sufficiently in the next 5 years to meet retention standards. It is almost certain that his PTSD and depression would worsen if exposed to the unique stressors of the military environment. And I don't think that it can be any more clear than that. Here you have these professionals that come in, the military has assigned them to my case. They have assigned them to review me to go before the next step in this phase. And this right here speaks to the severity of my issues. Right now, what is missing from this document is the fact that I am not on medication at this point, because I am about to start 2 days after this document. I'm about to start what's known as stellate ganglion block and ketamine infusion therapy, drugs that are the injections and infusions that are literally dedicated to taking me off of my medication completely and allowing me to function without having to take the medications like they talk about. But let's not dismiss them as not being on medication. I literally have to go in once a month and get an infusion like I did yesterday. I had to go in and get Botox shot across my head. And these are not fun things. And they have longer effects than the medications I've been on, and they have less side effects. So that's kind of the key here. And so we'll talk more about that tomorrow. And then the next thing we get to is the migraine headaches, right? And so they talk a little bit about it. And I don't think that they really disagree with the migraine headaches. I think they just come back and they say whatever. So the majors, so like they just say like you have migraines, it sucks for you, but they really can't attribute it to much. But they do talk about how they're probably brought on a lot by multiple blast exposures. It's probably brought on by the fact that I have PTSD for the most part, and in fact, the VA actually increases my my disability with this, because I go on and I start using Botox, and so therefore the VA says, yeah, you meet 50%, which is the highest they give for migraines. So we get to the bottom of this document, and the Navy says that my diagnoses are plain and simple: post-traumatic stress disorder, unspecified, depressive disorder. And they say the Medical Evaluation Board recommends the sailor's case be referred to the Central Physical Evaluation Board for the above diagnoses. The conditions did not exist prior to entry into the service, and the service member has received the maximum benefit of military medical treatment. All right. At the present time, the service member is considered fully competent to be discharged in his own custody. I'm not a danger to myself, and it's unlikely that I'll become a ward of the states, and that I'm mentally capable of handling my own finances, and there's no known disciplinary actions or investigations preventing me from administrative discharge at this time. So that's where we're at. And so the board, so they add some of my medications on here. And so it's a pretty long document. Again, it's on my page. You're welcome to go look at it. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible throughout this whole process. So the Medical Evaluation Board says those things. And so I don't understand how in the next phase that we're going to talk about tomorrow, they can completely ignore those facts. All right. And basically what they say at the next stage is that because I'm a nice guy, because the people like me, because my family is not hating me, or my dogs aren't, running away from me, none of this is basically true. And then they go a little bit further into the weeds on that. So so this is the Medical Evaluation Board. This is the part where I highly dispute what the Navy's saying. I can't be more clear about that. I believe that even though that they say that this cannot be used as a source of documentation for medical decisions, this, along with the medical guidance from 11 mental health neurologists and other doctors at the Walter Reed and as well as at the VA facilities, these documents and those notes from my doctors and those diagnoses, they all coincide with each other. And therefore, that's my dispute with the Navy on the grounds of medical necessity. I can't continue serving in the military. They won't allow me to continue serving in the military. They say that, and we'll talk about this in a couple of days, they really go into, well, the service member can perform different tasks, administrative jobs, but they're not going to give me waivers for my weight, right? So a lot of things that they talk about here is the depression and the anxiety and the medications that I'm on, and how it's a roller coaster effect, and I can, I do well for quite a while and I lose weight, and then I get depressed and I gain weight. And like, I've literally gone back and forth 50 pounds from 2014 to now, right? So lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it. I'm currently on the down slope again, lost 30 pounds. I'm trying to get to 200. I'm at 233 right now. If I can get to 200, I'm happy. The Navy says I have to go even farther than that. They say I have to be at 186 to be within weight standards to be in the Navy. They are not going to give me a waiver for that, right? I just can't, and I can't do it. And I know you guys see me on here, and I know you see me at events with members of Congress and with leaders in the military and this, that, and the other. But let's be honest, I get those opportunities because I'm a disabled veteran, right? So because I was a combat veteran and I have disabilities, I get afforded some opportunities that are pretty damn awesome, and I'm very grateful for that. But those guys, they don't have me around to talk about the next aircraft carrier that's being built. They don't have me around to talk about certain policy changes that are happening. They have me around to talk about how they feel good that they're doing something for a wounded veteran, for a wounded warrior, right? And that's what it is, right? So, and I get in these groups. So I'm in the Wounded Warrior golf group, and so I get to go hang out with these guys. So I'm not like that $1 million lobbyist out here, right? So like I'm probably doing okay. I'm gonna make about $35,000 this year in lobbying and stuff for veteran issues, but I'm not like this big time lobbyist. And just because I like to talk to people, you can't make, that's not fair for the Navy to say that that's what makes me good enough to be in the Navy still. Truth of the matter is, I'm an aviation bosun mate handler. They had an opportunity to send me to Legalman School in 2014, and whenever they approved my line of duty, they canceled any opportunity for me to go to Legalman A School. And I don't know an AB alive that would want an aviation bosun mate alive that would want me working beside them on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, knowing that my mental health may or may not be in check that day. And as a fellow AB, I'm not willing to take the risk of putting my shipmates in harm's way. And that's what happens on flight decks of aircraft carriers. People die up there. Whenever you don't have your head on a swivel, people die. And it's hard enough for me to keep my head on a swivel to remember what I ate last night, or to give my children their vitamin for the day, right? I mean, I do pretty good. I remember to change their diaper and feed them and give them water and all that other stuff, right? But sometimes, like, I might forget to give them like a vitamin, or I might forget to give them their medication if I'm not used to giving it to them. So whenever it comes down to it, like, is that the sailor that you want that has your back? Whenever a bird crashes on the flight deck, or whenever you're turning an aircraft on a catapult, right? You don't want that. And as a reservist, it's a lot of firefighting, and so you don't even want that in a firefighter. So it's not that I don't want to serve. It's just that I know it's not safe to serve, right? There's other ways that I can serve my country, and it's not in the Navy anymore. And I'm trying to do that. And you know what? It's not easy. And but I've really tried. I'm really trying my hardest. So that's kind of my story for today. It's it's just not right. And and I present all this. I give them all these. They have all these documents. I mean, look right here. The Department of Defense of the United States of America at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Medical Board Section for Patient Administration, report to the Medical Evaluation Board. This is the most official document you can get from their doctors, who are basically saying that I have post-traumatic stress and unspecified depression disorder, which they now call treatment-resistant depression. So I'm not going to let them win this fight. I refuse to let them win this fight. I don't think my shipmates want me to let them win this fight. But it's been pretty rough. It's been pretty rough, and to have my integrity questioned by the Navy has not been easy. To have my service be questioned by the Navy has not been easy. I love the Navy. As I'm talking right now, I'm sitting in my office and I'm surrounded by naval historical pictures and my coin collection, which is like 90% Navy. Um, Pictures of my wife and I in uniform. Just all types of stuff, right? And just this is my life, people. This is my life. This is what I love to do. This is what I live for, was to be in the Navy. I wanted to be a chief. I wanted to be an officer. I wanted to do so many things. And when I came home, I couldn't adapt. I couldn't do it anymore. My military leaders seen it, and I didn't. And it wasn't until I met some really cool guys over at Walter Reed that were struggling with this. Um, and they've been through a lot worse situations than I have. They've been in firefights and everything else that I hadn't been in. And I just realized that I needed to accept the fact that my time was done. It was time for someone else to pick up the reins and serve out the mission of the military, and it was my job to defend them. So I'm not done. They think I'm done. I'm sure they expect me to be done. I'm sure they're following me. I know they're seeing these things, but I don't care. I'm not doing anything wrong. Telling my story, telling the facts. These are your documents. You are the taxpayers, and I have the right to tell my story. I'm not bashing on them in any way. I still love the Navy. I'll be at the Army Navy game this year. I'll be rooting for Navy in everything that we do. So I'm not going to give up on them. They've given up on me, but I'm not going to give up on them. So I appreciate you joining me tonight. Appreciate you listening. If you don't mind, help me share this story. Like I said, I will be starting. We'll be starting to push the GoFundMe link here in a couple days to see if I can get some help to pay for this. $20,000 is a lot of money, and it's a lot of money to pay for a lawyer to defend a case that is cut and dry. The Navy says, prove to us that you have post-traumatic stress disorder, and we will give you relief. Well, I've done that. I've done that, and they've admitted it, and they still won't give me the relief that I need. I am on contract with them in the IRR until 2022, and just 1 year shy of my 20 years in. I have no possibility of retirement at this point. Spent more time in medical hold the last 7 years, and they're not going to allow me time to make that up. My high-year tenure is actually up in a couple months, I think next year actually, and I can't serve beyond that. I can't re-enlist beyond that. I can't make advancement in the IRR. I'm basically just a sitting duck. I'm just hanging out. I'm hanging out. Well, I'm hanging out and I'm mad, and I'm mad for me, and I'm mad for all my shipmates. So if you could share this, help me share this, and it means a lot to me. So thanks for joining me tonight. Like I said, I want to keep these about as brief as I can. Mark Quarter, thank you so much, shipmate. It means a lot that you're there for me. You've been there for me for a while. And everybody else that's been flooding my inbox with help and support, it means a lot to me. Specifically the 3 donors that donated money to help me out so far. I really appreciate that. John Ostrowski, you're the man. Randy Reed, you're even bigger man. And Kat, thank you so much. Thank you. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna hop off here. I'm gonna go downstairs and make dinner for my family, and we're gonna see what we can do, guys. I'm not gonna let them win this. So, thanks a lot, guys. I will see you all about the fleet. Let me figure out how to turn this off real quick. Oops.